Honorable Congressman and very dear friend of ours, Congressman Valadeo, supervisors, ladies and gentlemen, let's share the hymn and the prayer of someone who made the peasants the kings, who was the son of a martyr, and his sons were martyred too. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. This Fateh has made an ultra-nationalist government revoke its farming laws. So Fateh should be strong and strong enough. So Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. While we are, I try to be bilingual, but I can again come to the podium later to interact with you on more frank manner. But I would like to be in English for our other guests to understand. Well, first of all, this community of Fresno has played a very vital role on your own. But one thing which you probably don't know, that the congressional support which started for the farmers and their protest actually started from Congressman Valadeo. Congressman Valadeo was just elected, and he didn't even went to Washington to take the oath of his office, and he wrote immediately a letter to the Indian High Commission endorsing the right of protest of the farmers. That was a great contribution by your elected official. It was very difficult at the time because obviously Sikhs are a nation without any state, have no representation, oppressed people, but he became your voice at that time, which was obviously followed by later by other colleagues of his, like Congressman John Garamendi, Congressman Donald Brendan Boyle, Mary Scanlan, Pramila Jayapal, and many others. But his was the first one to raise the things about the farmers' protest. So let me congratulate the Sikh Sangat and the Americans specifically, because I come from United Kingdom. And United Kingdom is supposed to be, madam, don't need to be overexcited. We are supposed to be a nation of shopkeepers. And we don't uphold the religious freedom, human rights, and all the rights in the way the Americans do. So well done, America, and well done, American Sikh Sangat. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about this protest, when we talk about this triumph, in the recent human history, it was a very unique struggle. It wasn't the struggle of one community. It wasn't the struggle of one race. The Sikhs led its path because that is in the Sikh blood to stand for others. That is the part of the teaching of the Sikh masters, the Sikh gurus. But it was a very inclusive struggle. It was a struggle of Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus. They stood together. It was a struggle of common man. It was a struggle of not only men, but of women. It wasn't a struggle of a particular age, because in the protest we have seen people of 86 years of age to 3-year-old struggling just for one thing, saving the farmer community, because the farmers are the one who give us life. Whatever we consume, we buy it, but they grow it. So it was such a struggle in the recent human history which lasted so long, over a year, but it lasted for a year and reached the victory stand due to all of you and due to all of your efforts. So you were all part of it, and all of you deserve a heartiest congratulations for that. Now, looking at this struggle, why they protested? I mean, we can have long debates about it. In the UN, people also asked me, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that it wasn't easy for your congressmen to write to the Indian High Commission, to the Secretary of State, because the model of economy in the United States is actually something very comparable, which the Indian government has introduced. Because in December 2018, there was a resolution introduced in the United Nations General Assembly about the farming rights. And 7 states who voted against it, United States was one of those. And UK too, and Australia too. Because our farming issues in Punjab are probably sometimes not very well understood. When we talk about farmers, congressmen, we would perceive we have big farming community here, the farmers with hectares and hectares of lands and several hectares of land, but that's not the situation in Punjab. These laws, 3 of them, I would be very precise. The first one, which was about selling the products and marketing that, people said, what's wrong with it? Why the capitalistic economy shouldn't given this right that they can go anywhere and market it, and why shouldn't it be in the virtual space? We are talking about the farmer and the farming community which have less than 1 hectare of land, very small farmers. And they don't have these tools of IT and social media and marketing to market. So what would have happened if this was implemented? That the capitalistic masters would have gone there, grabbed all their prosperity. And these are the farmers, by the way, if you look at the economic survey of 2016, these are the small farmers who have an income less than $235 a year after all the cost taken out. So we are talking about such a community. And hence people protested against it. The second reason why these laws were not in the favor of our farming community was that the markets, the way the market system was being introduced, people, where they would have taken their goods. And it wasn't only the farmer, everyone which was related to farming community, whether it is someone who sells products or buy, everyone was being affected. And most importantly, the third one, there is no guarantee of the minimum support from the government or the minimum support to when it comes to selling or the price. That was, the government was not willing to commit it. What government of India has done, it has decreased its budget when it comes to the buying by the government. So in California, if there is a drought, your community, the government, the councils, everybody would support the farmers. That's not going to be the case in India. Hence, the people were worried about their livelihood and people protested against it. And most importantly, some of the commodities like wheat, grain, and all of that, there was previously in India, there was a legislation, you can't store it. But these so-called laws help the capitalist to hold it, store it, and all these journal goods to be disappeared from the market so they can sell it at whatever price they want to. So that would have really affected, knock-on effect on every person who is living below poverty line in India. So we need to understand these laws. When it comes to our intervention from the UN, I know a lot of people are taking a lot of credits, but a lot of people work behind the scenes, because those who work behind the scenes and those who communicate these things at the highest level, they can't publicize it. When this started, I immediately wrote to the UN Secretary General, being the member of the Global Steering Committee. And obviously, UN is a forum of the nations and the member states, not of the people. I often remind people, don't expect much from us. UN does not represent people, unfortunately. It represents the member states. So it cannot take strong stance against the member states. Hence, with all that lobbying done with the UN Secretary General's office, UN Secretary General issued a statement. There are so many protests going on in the world, but not everyone gets this attention. He upheld your right to peaceful protest. And so did the Michelle Bachelet, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, again upholding your right to peaceful protest. American Sikh Sangat was in touch with us, and so many other organizations from the Sikh Sangat were. My humble role was, whatever you communicated to us, was to channelize that to the UN and the UN Human Rights Council and its bodies. So, work talks for itself. We wrote a 13-page long letter to Government of India. And it wasn't signed by one rapporteur. In the UN structure, we usually have only one rapporteur who writes a page letter or 2-page letter, but we wrote 13-page letter. Signed by not one, not two, not three, but 7 different UN rapporteurs, raising the concerns from journal issues of the farmers' right to peaceful assembly, and also the hate speech and all that negative propaganda against the farming community which Indian media supported throughout. So that's what we did for farmers. Now, we received a response from Government of India, which is in my hand. I think Indian government won't be very happy that I'm bringing it to your attention. Obviously, other governments written to Government of India, but when anything goes from the United Nations, it had to be responded back by a member state. So this is on the headed paper. I can give you the copies for your consumption later. This is a response submitted by the Secretariat and from the UN Permanent Mission to United Nations Office in Geneva, where Government of India has completely endorsed what it did, where they supported their laws. But what I want to bring to your attention are the last two paragraphs. The last two paragraphs really sets the intent of the Government of India. I will quickly read it. The rest of the letter I can give it to you, where it says the protesters, and that's where this letter concludes from the Government of India. And this is a response, by the way, which came and discussed at the United Nations Human Rights Council as India's response to UN when we wrote a letter to them. The protesters acted in an irresponsible manner during the rally. They went beyond the agreed route of the rally, entered unauthorized parts of capital Delhi, including Red Fort, climbed the Red Fort, a protected monument by the Archaeological Survey of India, and vandalized the structure and put religious flag on national monument. Ladies and gentlemen, it clearly tells Indian government is less concerned about the farmers and more about the Nishan Sahib of the Sikhs. On the one hand, today RSS and BJP is trying to attack Muslims and Muslim heritage. But when it comes to their own convenience, that red flag they propagated against throughout and maligned the Muslim rulers of the time become their national monument. And raising a red flag there become a point of concern for Government of India and given to the international community with this response. And likewise, they say Delhi police personnel responded to these unauthorized and illegal acts with utmost restraint and responsibility. In fact, as a result of their restrained response to provocation and miscreants, hundreds of men and women serving Delhi police were subject to physical attack and in some cases were stabbed and seriously wounded. So what they are trying to say to the international community was that these were hooligans, they stabbed our policemen, and they have not told the world community that 800 farmers from little kids to elderly men and women, they have been vandalized, they have been tortured, they have faced death, they have survived the water cannons. That's what Government of India was trying to establish. But the humble people like me, who does not represent anyone but my own self, always try to bring it to the international community what was actually happening in India. And your voice was the voice of a common man which reached to the international forums. When people say to me, you are very passionate, being a Muslim, why you are so passionate? When I got Guru Granth Sahib included in the UN Faith for Right Declaration, people said to me, you are very passionate, why is it so you are Muslim? I told them one thing, Guru Granth Sahib is a universal Guru. It's very inclusive of all, and it's my Guru too. And I have a blood of farmer in me, and I'm a Punjabi too. My forefathers were Sikh. So you can change the religion, but DNA cannot be changed. I would like to conclude here what we should take away from this farmers' protest. Unity amongst all. The mayor has said very good thing. When it comes to hate speech, when it comes to malign people, when it comes to put stigmas on people, we face the same challenges, whether that's Muslim community, whether that's an issue of xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, or the misidentity of the Sikhs. It's not the issue of one community. We have seen a lot of spread of hatred even at the UN structures during this pandemic. We need to stand one because this is the message of Guru. God is one. so the creation of God is one. And when we are all one, then the pain we should feel as humans and stand with each other shoulder to shoulder. Second thing, what we should take from it, that the tools in the world have changed. You would see people who would like to put you on the path of extremism and would ask you to take arms, vandalize others, or try to connect the youth with extremism. Don't take that path. Right to peaceful protest is your basic right, endorsed by the Universal Right of Declaration. So choose that path. Only that path is the constructive one, which can resolve your issues, and not extremism or militancy or anything else. And thirdly, I have seen a great unity amongst all the common men of India, whether they were Hindus, whether they were Sikhs, whether they were Muslims, whether they were Punjab, whether they were from Haryana. They were all united and stand together. Now that needs to be converted in a political action. And that political action should be that the people of South Asia should live with peace. The common man of South Asia should have more man-to-man relationship across the borders. And people of that common man should question that I wouldn't stand with the religious bigotry. I wouldn't stand with persecuting the minorities. I wouldn't stand to spread hatred against others. I would stand with one common humanity. And that should be the message we should take. United States and Canada has realized the great potential of this great Sikh community who has made tremendous contribution. They are the first or second generations of immigrant in this continent. But there is more to do, more to realize, and I think local politicians would realize that and support every initiative American Sikh Sangat has brought to your attention today. You would see that these people would be the large part of your great American dreams in the days to come. With that, I would like to conclude. I don't want to keep David for long as well, because for a congressman to sacrifice his time this much, specifically on a weekend, I know he's a very, very busy man, and sparing his family time. I thank you all. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.